Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is a Raw recap. Let's jump right into it. First with the worst of the night, Rusev versus Mark Henry. The match itself was okay. The whole Lana Summer Rae thing at the end. Again, this feud is silly. It's boring. It's borderline bad. Soap opera acting, and it's elements that I really don't want on my wrestling show, so I just didn't like it. Now, coming off of that, we're going to roll into our question of the week. The question of the week last week was, who made you a fan of professional wrestling? We're going to get into some answers from our friends here. First is from our friend Christian. The guy who made me a wrestling fan was Mick Foley as Mankind. Next is from our good friend Benjamin Me19. I first started watching wrestling on the day that Vince kissed Trish on stage with Linda in the wheelchair. I started watching because my friends watched, but a couple weeks later, Austin turned heel and he and Triple H ran over everyone with steel chairs. Austin got me hooked. I stopped watching 06-07. I started watching again after the streak was ended. I felt betrayed by it, and at the time, I had to see that it was used well. Brock Lesnar's Suplex City kept me watching, but I started to appreciate others like Rollins and Ambrose, Bray Wyatt, etc. I am hooked again. Next is from our friend Dizzlepup. Sergeant Slaughter. When I was a little kid, I collected G.I. Joe action figures, and I was psyched to see Sergeant Slaughter on the TV. I'd sit there with my figurine and my bowl of cereal and watch him on TV like the good little nerd I was. Haha. Next from our friend Carl D'Angio. I originally started watching wrestling because I really liked John Cena because he's from Massachusetts and I was obsessed with the "you can't see me" hand motion. Last but not least, our friend Joseph Hatcher. Well, for me it wasn't one guy because there were a lot of years I judged wrestling and said I didn't like it. And I didn't even watch but my dad took me to an independent show called UCW, Ultimate Championship Wrestling, and I fell in love with it. I've been going to the show every year since, so it was multiple guys who got me started. But if you're talking WWE-wise, it would have to be Jeff Hardy. But unfortunately for me, CM Punk ended his career months after I started watching wrestling. But I have to say who kept me watching was John Cena and Undertaker, who remains my all-time favorite. And as for John Cena, now I can't stand Cena because of how WWE nails him in our head, and that's saying something because I was a huge Cena mark. But as for right now, my favorite wrestlers who are keeping me watching mainly are Neville, Lesnar, Cesaro, and Ambrose. Lots of good feedback from you guys out there. I already said it last week, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it a million more times because really, I can't say enough about the guy. The guy that got me watching professional wrestling was Roddy Piper. And when I really sit back and think about it, it really had to be in the very beginning of his WWE career. Because he was a manager for Dr. D, David Schultz, and Paul Orndorff. He wasn't even wrestling yet. And I guess I never really realized because it always felt like he was always there. But he would just came out of Georgia Championship Wrestling and Jim Crockett Promotions and just was on Starrcade in my favorite match, which I've seen since went back, found out about it later on and went and watched the Starrcade 83 match. But there was something about Piper. I had seen wrestling before. I don't know if it was my age, my rebelliousness, but I must have been 7 years old, 6, 7 years old at the time. Something about Roddy Piper was different than everybody else and enjoyable. I've always been a fan of the bad guys, whether it be movies like Star Wars, where Darth Vader is one of my favorite characters of all time, or comic books with like the likes of the Joker, or people like Venom and Spider-Man or Magneto and the X-Men. I always was drawn to the bad guy for some reason, and Piper, being the ultimate bad guy in professional wrestling, brought me in. I do find it kind of awesome that John Cena brought at least a few of you guys in, and you're willing to admit it. He does pick up a lot of flack, but I continue to want to remind people that give him flack that he's the reason a lot of people are watching professional wrestling. Love him or hate him, the guy draws you in. And I gotta respect the guy for it. Now, coming from that, our question of the week from this week is going to tie into something we're going to talk about a little bit later. Who has been your favorite celebrity? I'll start over. Your favorite celebrity involvement with professional wrestling. Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up down where? Down there in the comments. Also hit like and share while you're there. Now, coming from that, we're going to go into the positives of the night. First off, the New Day versus Los Matadors. Los Matadors are very boring and generic to me. New Day made this match. The way that they acted coming to the ring, in the match, Big E's dancing, everything about it was hilarious and over the top. New Day picks up the win. I just think they're hitting their stride, and they're one of the best acts on television, in my opinion. Next up, Miz TV with Daniel Bryan, who brings out, they get to talking, and it brings out the Big Show, because Miz says that Ryback should give the Intercontinental title to him. Show comes out, says it should go to him, which brings out Return of Ryback. I thoroughly enjoyed this segment for a few reasons. It was nice to see Daniel Bryan on TV and remember and be reminded just how over he is. He's one of my favorite wrestlers, and I think he's a guy that really deserves all the adulation he gets. It was also cool to see Ryback come back and get a nice, decent reaction, too. I think Ryback, he might not be the greatest wrestler in the world, but he definitely has an it factor. He's definitely fun to watch, and he's someone that can actually, in my opinion, can actually help out a show. I enjoy him, personally. At the end of the segment, we see Ryback and Bryan standing tall, which of course we will. Coming from that, we have Neville versus Wade Barrett, which is broken up by Stardust. Neville gets a win and then Stardust attacks. Then Stardust goes to ringside and sets up the inevitable confrontation with Stephen Amell, aka the Green Arrow, which sets up a SummerSlam match with Amell and Neville versus Barrett and Stardust. This is what I was mentioning with the celebrity interaction. I thought this was well done. I really thought the promo they did in the back with Triple H was awesome. I liked the setup. I liked that it's been something that's been building in social media. It's the new millennium way of putting together a program. Stephen Amell is someone that only had to appear on Monday Night Raw one time, but you're interested to see what his match is going to be. And that's the power of social media, and that's the power of something like Twitter or Instagram, where you could go on and you can make a couple posts, and all of a sudden you're world famous. Or you can take your fame and post something and hype it up. It comes from a very successful show in Arrow. I think it's going to be cool. I think it'll be fun. Do I think it's going to be the greatest match ever? Probably not. But I like that they put him into a tag match where he can hide that he's an actor wrestling. So, I think it'll be a cool thing to watch. Coming from that, we're going to go into our promo of the night. I'm going to single out one person in this, but I'm going to talk about the whole segment. Seth Rollins has hit his stride as a heel, and he's become one of the better heels in the business. He was on point with his Conan O'Brien, John Cena face-moving thing, with him doing the talking. That was funny. A lot of the stuff he said about Cena was funny. It was just a good promo when it led to Cesaro coming out and challenging him, then Kevin Owens coming out and challenging, then Randy Orton coming out and challenging, and basically Seth Rollins putting his foot in his mouth, saying that no one tells him what to do, not even the Authority, which sets up a three-way, which would lead into the main event of Cesaro versus Owens versus Orton. and the winner goes on to face Rollins. I thought this was a great promo, particularly for what Seth Rollins did. I think he's shining bright, especially when you got two other capable guys. Cesaro, he's good at promos. He's not reached that elite level yet. But guys like Owens and a guy like Orton, who's been on the top forever, and Triple H, who's been in the top of the business forever, and Rollins stood out. So there's something to be said about that, and I really enjoyed the promo myself. Now, coming off of that, we're going to roll right into the match of the night, which was the aforementioned Randy Orton versus Cesaro versus Kevin Owens. Fantastic match. I love the end segment with the two RKOs, one to Owens, one to Cesaro. Orton picks up the win, goes back into the title picture, which I think realistically for Randy Orton and his career and who he is and what he means, he should never be that far away from the main event picture. He should always be a guy that's either in the main event picture, right on the outside of it, or involved in a blood feud, in my opinion. I thought this was great. It set up the main event. The main event was okay. There's a reason why it didn't make the list. I didn't really like it, especially at the wonky thing at the end where Sheamus tried to cash in and the ref and him struggled over the briefcase. I didn't understand why he just didn't turn and ring the bell. It makes no sense. But anyway, I digress. This match was good. It set up the main event. It gave WWE another option if John Cena doesn't get cleared for SummerSlam. Because they could always say, Cena's not cleared, but you'd never beat Orton, Rollins, so you're going up against Orton. Or Orton and Sheamus in a three-way. Which, either way, will make a fun match. I like Orton. I'd like to see Orton more stay away from Sheamus because I don't think that feud is going anywhere or helping him. But, you know, that's just my opinion. Rolling from that, we're going to go into our ratings, and I'll explain it to you if you haven't seen the show before. We have a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. 1 is a Los Matadors, 2 is a Heath Slater, 3 is an R-Truth, 4 is a Randy Orton, and 5 is a Brock Lesnar. Apropos to say, this show was a 4, Randy Orton. Not much that I didn't really like on the show. A couple bland moments, but overall a pretty good show. I'd like to see next week they improve on it as a go-home show for SummerSlam, especially now that they're going to 4 hours of SummerSlam and making it seem as important as WrestleMania. But I'd say it's a 4, give it a Randy Orton. Pretty good, pretty solid, fun to watch. What more could you really ask? And basically, that's all I have to say on that topic. My name is George Coles. This has been another Raw Recap.